in another episode of Cyber Traders, and I'm really super excited on our next guest that we have here. Somebody I've been actually known for so many years, and I can't believe it's got to be maybe like 30 years. Greg Capra, the founder of Pristine and now master trader. Yeah, how have you been? I can't remember. When's the last time I saw you? Probably one of the expos or
At
something
a
like that.
Traders Expo. We actually traded together.
I remember that. And you know what's so funny? I still use that photo. It's a great photo of us. And it's great that some people don't know how to put their money where their mouth is, but that was a great experience back then. So what have you been up to?
People loved it. They loved it. Man, the crowds, oh man, they're gonna press the button, they're gonna trade.
And you know what the funny part is? I love when I lose money too, and you're like showing them, like, because I always tell everybody, listen, losing's not a bad thing, because you know what? As long as you know why you lost, you don't do it again, and that's everyone's biggest problem. Yeah. But yeah. So what have you been doing with yourself all this time?
It's been a long journey. 30 years is a long time. I started out, as I said in my website, back knowing absolutely nothing, like most people do. Zero. Yeah. What's a stock? And you're dangerous. And start learning. There was no information out there. There was no internet. So, it's trial and error. You're trying to figure it out on your own, find out who knows something that, you can gather some information and try and figure this out. And it was a journey, I mean, today, it's kind of feast or famine. And so the famine was like you and I started, and it's like, how do you find anything out? There was no internet.
Right.
And today people are inundated with stuff. So they have to crawl through the mud and try and find what's good. And it's a tough journey, because there's just information overload.
Yeah, I think and that's what I find out a lot too. Listen, like we're like the old timers, we're like the pioneers. I tell everyone, like when I started, when I tell people I was like one of the 5 that started training, they're like, really? There's like, and they're like, how many are now? I says thousands. And you were actually one of them too. I mean, like it was just like you, me, and there's probably 3 others out there. And some of the and if we're still around, obviously I would tell them we're obviously doing something right. But getting back to like what we used to do back then, it was a big challenge. We didn't have the internet like we have today. We didn't have the YouTubes. We didn't have the videos. Like, we had to do everything on site. Like we were talking about, like doing the expos. We loved doing that. And, they obviously died out a little bit, but I remember being out there when you and I do those traders challenges together. We had probably like 300, 400, 500 people sitting in there. It was like crazy.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was 1999, the first one.
1999. And what year did you start? I started back in 95, I think it was. When would you do the same time?
I started the company in 1994.
94. Okay.
94. So it was, well, a bit of the story. My history is how I got started in this. Well, it was like, okay, stock market, learn, try to gonna make money, from the other business that I was in, make more money. And so I answered an ad, a book ad. Everybody probably remembers Alexander Elder, Trading for a Living, famous book. So he sells books. And I answered an ad, traders that want to meet on a weekend or whatever. And I go down to his office down in Manhattan, interviewed. He accepts me into this group. And I go there like I'm nobody. I don't know. I'm my little retail guy and go into this, he was like a guru at the time with this book.
Yeah, I remember.
And so I go in there and there's like market makers and specialists and hedge fund managers. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening, trying to take it in. It's like, I'm going to learn something from these people. And I'm like, they don't know shit.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as technical analysis go, they do their own thing. And an aha moment for me was this guy. He was a specialist on the exchange, and he had a bad day, a bad week, and he's talking and he's complaining to Elder, and I'm listening, and he looks at me and he's like, kind of like piss off, and he's like, they listened to me like what I was doing in technical analysis and that, and he goes, like, what are you doing here? Like, you're doing okay, and this and that. And he goes, I said, I'm learning from you, pal. I said, I'm just here listening to the story and I'm taking it in. Like, to what you're going through and like the pain part of the trading, because, just to me, this is like I'm in a room full of gods, and they weren't. They weren't.
Yeah, they that and listen, being I was one of those guys on being a market maker, but I was more on the Nasdaq side, and
Yeah,
yeah, listen, it was really stressful. It really is, and you got to know how to deal with the losses. But like you said, like you look more patient. A lot of it, like one of the hardest things to teach is like there is a lot of psychology behind it, and
yeah,
I think that's where a lot of the people here have to learn a little bit when it comes to the trading part about it. Is that part about it?
yeah. Fausto, that everybody says is the hardest part. Who you listen to, it's 50%, it's 90%, whatever. But that's one of the huge hurdles that everybody is against us, because we're not human nature isn't made to do this.
Hmm.
Meaning, no matter what you do, right? It's like, you're going to do it right. You're going to be good at it. You're going to, in a prior life, I had an automotive shop, and it's like, okay, if I'm going to fix this guy's car, I'm going to do it right. You know, he's going to go out on the road, he can't break down. I want to do it right. And so you approach this in the same way,
Right.
but you know that you can never be, if you can be 60%, you're making money, right?
Hmm.
So that flies in the face of human nature. It's like you're never going to be 100%, 90%. And so as you're doing this, accepting that, how am I going to place this trade, knowing that I really don't know the outcome? But technical analysis leads you to believe that you can tell the future.
Right.
You have to have a belief that something's going to happen in the future, one way or another, but still knowing there's no assurances it's going to happen.
Right.
And so you place the trade and you manage it accordingly. And so, being in the business as long as I have, and I know what people want to learn. Teach me about candlesticks, teach me a pattern. Well, how about learning about money management and position sizing and this and that? And I have courses on that. No,
They didn't
no,
want to learn about that.
no, they do. They do. Because if you ask them, would you go into business without a business plan and knowing how to manage that business? Absolutely not. Well, why would you do it in trading? Well, I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Well, why didn't you? Why aren't everybody lining up to take the money management course?
You know,
No.
it's funny. I have a new student, same thing, got into education business, but he's a project manager, and he was saying like, and he realized like there are a lot of people you can learn from, and obviously you always got to build your style. I mean, you and I have a little bit different style, but we really do trade about 70% of the same. A lot of it is money management, and that's why I always try
Yeah.
to tell everybody, Greg, is that you have to learn how to lose so you don't do it again. And people are like, well, can you just tell me what to buy and sell? I'm like, listen, I can't tell you where to hit the button. I don't know where you got in and got out. I mean, I'm not in your head. You know what I mean? Like, you got to hit the button at the end of the day. You got to
Yeah.
know the money manage part about it. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think for you being around so long, as long as I've been around, we've been through some of the biggest catastrophes. And I mean, going back to the biggest one, for the first one, your first biggest one was, but the first biggest one was, the internet bubble, you know,
Yeah.
and to get through that, I mean, how many people we knew in that industry back then? I mean, we're talking like, some people like forgot about that, but like, I remember those days like yesterday. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then the financial crisis, like then, then COVID. I mean, some people here probably familiar with COVID, have been around, but like, if
Yeah.
you could survive that, you could survive anything. And
I
I think that's what,
remember.
yeah.
I remember. I mean, 9/11.
Yep.
I
Nine
was
eleven
I
was
was
another one.
I was sitting in front of my screen in my office in White Plains. Come in over the weekend. I'm long. Things started out okay, and everything shut off. And I can remember this. I'm watching the cues, and it starts, the bar starts jiggling around. I'm like, something's up, and everything was shut off.
Mhm.
Oh, everything will be back in a few hours. It was a week later.
It was yeah,
Crash.
it was a crash. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember that. And I'll never forget that day. I think everyone here that was traded back that day remembers it like yesterday. Like
Yeah.
what happened with me, I was doing a coaching class. believe it or not, he was a dealer in Vegas, and he wanted to learn how to trade.
Yeah.
And I was doing a coaching class in pre-market, teaching him in pre-market, and he's like, everything just stopped.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, plane just crashed, into the Twin Towers. I'm like, cut out of here. That's just the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. What a probability of chances. And then sure enough, I'm like, I mean, that I have to be honest with you. I was probably the first time I ever had a martini that early in the morning. And
Yeah.
that was the last time I probably had one. My heart was pounding. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And it was just like, it was crazy. And then the market opened up like, I don't know, 2,000 points lower, but
Yeah.
it was a pretty crazy time. And listen, it happens, I tell people these catastrophes are going to happen. You being in White Plains, you're not too far from me. You remember even Hurricane Sandy, same thing. Market was closed for almost 20 days, 22 days. I had brokerage firms, their buildings were underwater, from that,
My Plains, that was over 20 some odd years ago. I'm down in Miami now in Sunny Isles Beach.
Oh, so you're lacking nice and comfortable. You left this year in New York, huh? How
Thank
long you
God.
been? Yeah, thank
Place is
God.
a disaster.
I know. Well, listen, I'll probably be there soon, but I still have one more kid that's in college, high school.
Wow.
So
Wow. All
yeah,
right. All
yeah,
my
yeah.
kids are,
They left the coop.
oh, I got one son that's 41.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we started young, I guess. My other
Absolutely.
one came a little late. I have a
Absolutely.
20, so a 25, and a 21 and a 16. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
those are the good old days. So Greg, so tell me a little bit about everything that you've been doing. I mean, like, what have you seen anything different that's been going on in the market with all your experience? I mean, I know you had Pristine, you sold it. Okay. Did very well with that. And congratulations to you. I love hearing stories like that,
Yeah.
and, but you're still there. I mean, I sold too. I had a
Yeah.
company called, Teach Stack that I sold. I did well with that too. And obviously started Cybertrain University and everything. But what have you been seeing? What have you been doing differently? I mean, there's a lot of great people here that are trying to
Yeah.
start out. They don't know
Yeah.
what direction to go. What have you been seeing? That's
So the good part is the foundational information is exactly the same, and it will always be the same because it's based on supply, demand, human nature. All right. Support, resistance, trends. What has changed a bit is there's more, I guess, stop hunting. I mean, that was always around. It was like, oh, the market makers are going to hit my stop, and da 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 da.
Mhm.
It's become more of a well-known strategy. Stop hunts, liquidity hunts, whatever you call it. And so back in the 90s, it was more about, hey, here's a setup. It's more exact. It's more of the style that we've always had is like, here's a very specific area of interest, and here's the turn, and so on and so forth. And I always focused on failed patterns, like some kind of a failure, because there's some kind of a shakeout. Today, it's become more of something that happens a lot more often,
Okay.
where wherever the stops are, odds are they're going to hit them. And if you're there, that's a good day trading strategy. Whereas it's not something that we did back then to kind of fade stops being hit. Our stops got hit, they hit, you moved on,
Right.
and so that's different. But the foundational information, I mean, that should make everybody feel good about that, is that if you stick with the foundational information, it will never change. And if you can find the part of, the discipline and patience part to wait for your setup, the odds are in your favor.
Yeah, I think that's why everyone has a problem. Nobody has patience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, and I always tell everybody, let the stock come to you. Don't rush. It's not good. The stock market's not going out of business. The stock, you might get a
Yeah.
company go out of stock, go bankrupt, whatever it is, or it may
Yeah.
take off. I mean, but listen, like Nvidia took off this morning, from yesterday, and
Gap.
there's always something new. You know
Right.
what I mean? There's always a new AMD. I mean, there's always a new adventure out there. Crypto stocks. I mean, just past week took off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't trade the cryptos. I trade the ETFs, the
Yeah.
stocks.
Me
But
too.
But yeah, there's always something new. I mean, I always tell everyone the biggest change too, like when we started, this is the crazy part, Greg. I tell everyone when we used to trade back in the day, we had to deal with fractions,
Mm,
which was expensive. We had to pay $20 a ticket,
yeah.
which was expensive. Now they're free. We had to pay for software now most of the time, and now it's free with these brokerage firms, and
Yeah.
people still can't make money doing it. You know, so what's the
And
challenge that they're having that you've seen, Greg?
I know what the challenge is look, you go to work and any other job, if you work for somebody, you're going to get a paycheck at the end of the week, every 2 weeks, whatever it might be. You come and do this, and it's like things are moving. Assuming you have your plan, whatever that is, and things aren't setting up the way you want them to. Things are moving. I'm not making any money. You start feeling this internal emotional pressure. I got to do something. I think that's something to do. I'm not sure. You wind up doing it anyway. How do you manage that? Now the internal dialogue starts going on, and maybe it works out, or maybe that's a new strategy, or maybe it doesn't work out. I knew I shouldn't have done that. Why'd I do that? Why'd I break the plan? you know? And it's like, so this is what we all go through. And so those that, if you start to keep a trading journal, which is essential,
It is.
and
I
it,
always do that all the time. I tell
yeah,
everybody.
so if you have your winners, your losers, my F ups, and you start keeping some notes that you find these repetitions as to what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And if you can bring yourself to stop doing the impulse trades, let's call them, the odds are on your side. So when things aren't there and you have to be patient. So I'll give you an example. I'm primarily a directional trader, whether it's
Mhm.
a swing trader, intraday trader. For me, that's the money. If it's moving, you're going to make far more money. Where my partner, he's an options trader. He does lots of credit spreads.
Right.
So credit spreads is kind of that flies in the face of my nature. I don't really care for them, but in a directionless market, he's knocking it out of the park,
Hmm.
And so, I have to sit on my hands and wait and wait. And if things are going sideways for a while, you know, it is. I'll give you a story. So kind of like, a contrarian indicator kind of thing. Right. So back in, I guess the 90s, 2000, the market tops out and the market's going down. Always traded stocks
Mm.
directionally. And so the market, after March of 2000, it crashes, goes down. NASDAQ's down 95%. The fractions go to decimalization. We thought this was a wonderful thing. It wasn't. Because now those things that jumped 50 cents on a dollar at a time, it didn't do that because of the decimalization. People now start cutting the penny. You got these hidden trades
Yeah.
where people are, and things tighten up so bad. It's like, man, I'm going busting my butt here to try and make a dime. And so I was like, I'm going to trade futures.
Yeah. They bounce around.
Start trading the S&P, market bottoms. Russell starts going up, market's going up, and it's like, okay, I'm going to stick with the futures. But that was a learning experience in itself. So I still like trading the futures and trading the stocks, and you can do both.
All right.
Uh, you know, my nature is like I can't do too much at one time to focus on. Is just because that's just the way I go. You got to find yourself.
You find your weaknesses and everything else. But I like what you brought up, Greg, is that you said something very important in the beginning. I think everyone here that's listening and is going to be watching this has to understand trading is a business.
Yeah,
And like you just said earlier, when you go to work, you expect you can get that paycheck, right? No matter what, if you had a bad week, you can
yeah,
get paid. You know what I
yeah,
mean? If you had a great week, you're going to get paid. So, I mean, like, other than what the company's doing, you do your job, you're going to get paid. And trading doesn't work that way. You know what I mean?
oh,
Like now all of a sudden, like you're running a business. It's
yeah,
like, okay, now it's like money management. I have a bad employee. Do I keep paying them? Do I not pay him? Like, what's my books look like? Now I have to manage my bank account. And you're right. That's where it is. So I find a lot of students I do train are a lot more business owners, so they do get it. It's a little bit easier when you're coming from, a paycheck to paycheck. You got to now have to learn how to be more like, you're running a house, you're running a business. So you just can't expect every morning you wake up, it's being a cash register. And getting back to your other thing, which is another great point that I always find, Greg, and I know you encounter this all the time. And I want to hear your thoughts on it, because I think everyone here needs to understand it. I mean, we've spoken to, you've trained, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people over the years, and I think the way you become a very good educator is you're a very good listener, and, you always get somebody like, well, why should I take Greg's class versus Fausto's class and this and that, or why should I trade futures versus stocks? Like, I get people like, I got to trade options. And I hear obviously the dream of the options and stuff like that. But I'm like, I always tell everyone, you got to be a good stock trader, understand how an option moves, because that's what makes an option move. So what do you tell somebody, how, if they want to get into this business, and then, there's a lot of people out there pitching why their style is better than that style and that. And, hey, look at my Mercedes, I'm on a Learjet, and, look at all this cash and hot girls and stuff. What do you tell them? You know what I mean? Like, to be honest with them.
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware.
most of these guys on a Learjet, you can remember a few of them. I don't need to mention names. They got arrested. It was all bullshit. There's a lot of bad actors out there.
Which we have to deal with all the time. I know
there's no perfect instrument to trade. Where's the liquidity? What's moving? People say, oh, it's Forex, Forex, Forex. Well, you know what? I've never traded Forex. I've traded currency futures, but there's nothing that's 100% all the time. At certain times, whether the pound is moving or euro, or at other times the stock market's doing the best. Options, another animal, right? You have to, you get the direction. Well, what's the time to expiration? Which strike should I choose?
Right.
So these other elements, how fast might it move? Which, it's an unknown. So there's these different variables that you need to understand. And so there's no perfect instrument, but you have to learn the foundational information. Is it going up, down, or sideways? How you get to the point of is it going up, down, or sideways? There's a lot of different ways. So, anybody that's known me for a while, they know I'm passionate about clear your screen of the indicators. Mm-hmm. Take them off. Because
I'm the same way.
They lead to confusion. And, you want to go buy a course on how to interpret an Inchikumi cloud? Good luck. But simplicity is where it's at. Basic stuff. Is it going up, down, or sideways? I need to have a concrete way of determining that. Where are buyers? It's called support. Where are the sellers? It's called resistance. Mm-hmm. If there's no support or resistance, new all-time highs, or what I call a tradable void, odds are it's going to trend. And so once you can start putting that together in a simplistic, systematic way, it's up to you to follow it. And you have to be there every day, waiting for your pitch, waiting for this thing to set up. And when things are moving and it's not your pitch, right? How many guys sit there? It's kind of an analogy of baseball. Guy's sitting there and he's looking to hit it out of the park, the home run, right? Yeah. He's watching that pitch come.
It's going to strike out more times than others.
Well, is it a strike or was it a ball? Right? He thought it was a ball, but it was a strike. He missed. So you're there as a trader, and it's like, why didn't I press that button? Mm. Why didn't I press the button? I saw it. Why didn't I press the button? Well, if this, if that, maybe, I don't know. Well, you know what? If you start to get the money management part down, where you can become more indifferent to the exactness of saying this isn't perfect, because once in a while you see perfection. It doesn't come too often. Mm-hmm. And so and that's, I think a lot of people start that way. I did. I thought the more that I knew, the more things that were lined up perfectly, I wouldn't lose money. It's part of the trap. that ultimate certainty. I mean, and eventually you figure out that you're never going to get it 100%. If you can get it close and be comfortable with, I don't know 100%, but if it doesn't work out, I will only theoretically, so gaps or what have you, um, I'll lose this amount of money. If I lose that amount of money, will I pay my rent? Will I eat? Will I pay this bill or that bill? Yeah. Okay. You should have comfort in that and you should do the trade.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of people, I find that they just get too damn, how can I say it? They just want to they want to make fast money, you know? They want
Who
to make fast
doesn't? But
money. And,
yeah,
like all the people in COVID, when I remember like everybody wanted to trade. They were doing nothing. They were staying home, and it was just easy money to make money in COVID. I mean, like you never been in trading before. You jumped
yeah,
in when the market crashed, so everything
yeah.
went up, and now everyone think it was so easy, and then where they are today. I getting people like, well, I'm not really making the money like I'm used to, and this and that. And like, getting you a baseball analogy, I use the same thing. I tell everyone, who's a better baseball player, Joe DiMaggio or Mark McGwire? And what was the difference? One hit the ball, broke the home run world's record. The other one hit the ball 56 times in a row.
Right.
How are you going to make, who do you want on your team? Gets on base or a guy hits home runs? You can't hit home runs in trading all the time. You're going to strike out more than others. So it's got to be
Look,
happy, like you said, just make what you can make. And that's it. I think that's also, once again, getting back to your money management part of the class, which I kind of love.
I think that most people don't, because we all think about the big money. It's natural. It's normal. Um,
Excuse me.
yeah, that's right. And but people don't realize that you can make a substantial amount of money hitting base hits. Your analogy
Yeah,
there.
of
So
course.
look, if you're starting out and you think about, look, when I started out, you started out, and the whole game of trading and So's Bandits was like you did 1,000 shares and you looked to grab a quarter or an eighth or whatever, a dollar. But if you are doing trades, you'd be surprised at the amount of money that could add up. Not that you have to do 1,000 shares, not at all, but whatever your trades are, $100, $200, $300, once in a while, 1,000 bucks, it adds up.
It does. It does.
Yeah. So swinging for the fences is a loser's game.
Hmm. I tell everybody, listen, if you can make 50 cents a day on 1,000 shares, everybody's like, does 50 cents sound like a lot? And I'm like, no, it sounds like nothing. The stock's up like $5, $4. Well, if you can average 50 cents a day, just make that 50 cents. There's your $100,000 salary. How much
Yeah.
money did you make last year? I tell them. How much was your salary last? And like, yeah, I was making like 70,000. Okay, so you just doubled your salary. What's wrong
Right.
with that? Start somewhere. Start small. And I think that's where I think the big mistake is. But Greg, regarding about a little bit more about your style, because I really want to get people to understand, like, how did you get into your style? Like I just mentioned to you earlier, there's a lot of people here, like, how do I know I go towards the Forex? How do I know to do the options? How do I know to do the stock trading? I mean, how do I know, like myself, get into the day trading and you get more into the technical? How did
Yeah.
you find your sweet spot that worked? Because I think that's what everyone here needs to kind of understand, because they're trying, like you just mentioned, there's a lot of bad actors we deal with, right? And everyone's trying to say like why their trading style is better than everyone else. If someone's out there starting out or has been sampling a bunch of them, what would you tell them? Because like, listen, you have people that come to your events all the time and they won't take your classes, and that's okay. You're like, at least you understand. Maybe don't like the way I sound or whatever it may be. But what would you
Right.
tell them? What would be right for them? What they need to do to kind of get started?
Well, get some kind of education without trading.
Without saying, I mean, I tell them that
Yeah.
all the time. I mean,
Yeah. Learn something and test it. I always tell people, you know, most people will do more research to go buy a new phone than to put their money in the stock market, because of the greed and fear thing.
right,
So
like denial.
yeah, go research who you're going to go give your money to for an education. Will you pay for the education? It's the fast track. Um, how many times have I heard, when I make enough money, I'm going to buy your course?
I
Okay.
hear that all the time.
How you gonna do that? It's in the cart before the horse, right? And so, look, it's got to be common sense. So my style, you want to call it my style, and I didn't create support, resistance, and trends.
Right.
You know, some specific patterns that I focus on, sure, but the basic foundational stuff is universal. So you want to trade Forex, it works. You want to trade Apple Computer, it works. You want to trade currencies, it works. It's all the same because it's you, me, and everybody else that's trading. It's human nature. A chart, something I say, a chart is a picture that represents what you and I are doing. What are our beliefs and expectations that we've created with money?
Hmm.
That's what a chart is. That's what it
That's
comes
all it is.
down to. It's not haram eyes and black cloud covers and piercing patterns, right? Call it whatever you want. It's some kind of reversal pattern. Where does a reversal pattern happen? Support, resistance, trend? Does it have room to run? Now, from that, you can decide that based on where you live, right? Maybe you live on the West Coast, you can get up and trade in the morning, before you go to work. And so gap trading is for you. Or if you want to trade Forex, fine. In any event, whatever you want to do, the style is universal. You want to be a day trader, change the time frames. You want to be a swing trader, use the higher time frames.
Right.
All of that foundational stuff is the same. It does not change. So if it works everywhere, that means it's the truth. But if you put your stochastics and your MACD, your RSIs and your Ichikumi clouds, and now you get into which are the right settings, and you go and you go to some webinar and the guy goes, well, for $500, I'll give you my proprietary settings. And you're like, okay, that's marketing. Okay, I'll do it. And you hand over that money. And then, well, why didn't it work? It worked on IBM. Why didn't it work on, Apple or whatever? So all of these questions start to come up as to where is the consistency in this technical analysis craziness? Well, it's not in the indicators because there's all these settings. I even wrote my own indicators years ago, trying to, I figure I'm a smart guy. I can create something.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
The idea behind it was multiple time frames and how this indicator could look at multiple time frames, but it didn't work. And so how did I get to this point of no indicators? Well, first of all, it was like I felt like everything I looked at the time, even though it was a dearth of information back when I started out, was like, it's kind of like got me a little angry, So I'm passionate about this and like people not getting caught up in the indicator based mythology because
Hmm.
I know the traps and what they're going to go through. So, but if you can, and people probably say, well, why should I listen to this Capra guy? Everybody else, the majority out there are using indicators. I put on my trading platform and there's a gazillion indicators. There's got to be
Yeah.
something to this indicator thing, right? And I was like, okay, go ahead, give it a try. And so as I did that, kind of like the light bulb went on. I mean, I was so analysis paralysis syndrome is like the horizontal lines that were on the chart were like, it'll stop there. It'll stop there. And it's like, I can't even place the trade anymore because,
You're thinking
you
too
know,
much.
I'm thinking too much. Right. So I had to take the horizontal lines off the chart.
Yeah.
So there's always something you don't know. Always. So at some
Okay.
point you say, well, this is odds are in my favor. Money
Greg,
management.
why don't you show us a little bit what you're talking about? I want to really, could you show us your platform a little bit, like the
Yeah.
mistake that what people are doing out there, so we kind of see it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So, look, this is the platform I use for scanning, right? I can show you a scan layout, but I use this in our trading room to display charts and talk stuff. The trading platform that I use is for futures is NinjaTrader, and I have eSignal for equities. But the TC2000 is great for scanning. So this is a trade that we're in now, and you say, well, why? Why are you in it? Why even have these moving averages on there? Well, it's a 20, a 50, and a 200 simple. And so I refer them as intelligent moving averages. Why are they intelligent? Because I utilize them from a point of view of, well, the 20 is short term, the 50 is equal to the 10 on the weekly. So this means the weekly trend must be going up, or it's turned up, and this is equal to a 200 is equal to the 10 on a monthly. So I know in this time frame, looking right here, without even having seen here, I know that there was a correction and this thing is bottoming. It's relatively close to the moving averages. So I call moving averages a visual aid for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what they are, because they give me some insight to the trend and multiple time frames. So wide range bar, this is like an explosion, a move. Now over here, it was all I call wide and whippy. It's erratic. Bottoming patterns, another thing I say is they're treacherous. Why? Because they make explosive moves and they look like they're going to go up indefinitely forever. This is and they often fall all the way back down again. It's just the nature of a bottoming pattern, whatever it is, because there's a whole bunch of people holding losses over here.
Yeah, I see
for,
that.
for whatever reason. All right. It look amazing. And so charts create beliefs. This was an amazing move. It's and so people think, oh, that's going to be the next, Nvidia, whatever. It'll go up forever. Maybe it would. I don't know. And then it crashes. Now all these people want their money back. So it
And they
explodes
average
like
down.
that, and it's like, you know what? Let me get out of this thing. It's a dog. Right? As they went through all this pain. So now as things begin to tighten up, tightening up means the forces of supply and demand, you and me with different opinions, are starting to come to agreement in our opinions as to this thing's going to go up or down.
Mm-hmm.
So as this thing starts to tighten up here, it gains our interest. And so it pushes up again. And so one of the things that I look at is these red bars here. If we could, if I could eliminate some of this, and I showed you this, and here's this red bar, what do you think it's going to do? 90% of the people are going to say, oh, it's going to go down tomorrow. Well, okay, I won't disagree. It's a red bar. It was bearish on that day. It didn't go down. That means somebody bought it. Somebody was on the bid down there and bought it on that ugly day when I thought it was going to go lower. That suggests somebody knows something I don't. Some institution thinks it's cheap.
Yep.
Well, they thought it was cheap here, right? Somebody bought it there, but it kept going down. So I need more information. Show me more. Okay, it shows me more. It tried to go down again. These little green dots, they're on everybody's platform. They're just, I call them pivots. Some platforms, they call them fractals. Fancy name for something really simple. It's just a bar with 3 higher lows to the left and right. Right. And this is a bar with 3 lower highs to the left and right. It's the ebb and flow of what's going on. Forms support and resistance. So now it pops up and it clears this resistance area. That leads me to believe that it's going to go higher. So we gave this as a recommendation here, right? On this day to trigger above here, and we're still in it. And so as this goes sideways, every time, so when prices go up, people always say, Greg, what is this void concept you talk about? This was like a giant aha moment for me. It's like, and as I search through all of my trades, it's like, that pattern looks just like that pattern. Why did this one work and that one not work? Well, that one had all of this stuff to the left called resistance. Well, what if there is nothing to the left? There's no resistance. So this stock came down hard. It corrected through time. It tightens up. And so here, some people might call this a flag pattern. To me, it's just this move up created a void and it formed this pivot. Somebody bought it down here when
Mm-hmm.
it dipped below support. So this is what we call minor support, prior resistance. Everybody knows what was resistance becomes support, basic
Right.
stuff, right? So it breaks down, it goes back up again. Okay, support should become resistance. Let me see what happens when it comes down to support.
It held.
Oh, it held and it went up. This must mean that buyers are in control and it's going to go up. Let's buy it and see what happens. Let's put a stop down here. What does putting a stop mean? Well, people say, "Oh, I'm just where I'm gonna get out." Well, how much are you going to lose if it goes down there? I bet how much do you want to lose? Somebody will say, "Well, I'm willing to lose $200." Okay. If you enter here and your stop's down here, how many shares can you buy? And if it goes down there, how many shares could you buy and you'll lose $200? That's basic stuff.
Yep.
So now once you've gotten to the point where you're willing, or I should say not willing, but accepting to lose $200 and it's not going to change your life, the fear element that we all have about being wrong dissipates. Now I can press that button, and what do I do from there? Well, created this, I created the name, so to speak, of what I call bar by bar analysis. And what that is what does this bar tell me about my previous analysis belief? I mean, everything's a belief. How do you create your beliefs? Indicators, price action. What are you going to utilize? So when I do that, now the next bar, does this bar confirm my belief? Absolutely. And I believe it's going to keep going up into this void area here. Someone might say, Greg, can you tell me for sure that it's going to go up? And it's like, hell no. Nobody knows. Only God knows things like that. Or the guy on YouTube that's got the $100 stacks in his Learjet over there. He can probably tell you. And I can't, right? All I know is this says it's going up based on what I said, and it's got room to go up before the sellers begin to emerge more aggressively. It's created this support. That price action is positive. It might stop at $60 because that's a whole number. That's something that comes into play. It's a psychological thing. Now, getting a little deeper into what we do is, like especially with the broader markets, and I might look at something like this as $60. I would look at this and I would say, you know what? How many calls are being bought at that $60 strike? What's the open interest there? If there's a huge open interest there, it's likely to gravitate toward that. Now, here's a little tidbit as far as, SPX trading, and if you trade SPY or the futures, is that if you look at what's expiring today on SPX and you look at the highest open interest strike in calls, odds are SPX is going to gravitate there. And when it gets there, it's going to stall.
Because that's a strike.
At that strike.
Right.
It tends to be a magnet. And it's a great piece of information if you're trading, the ES or the micros, that what the S&Ps are going to do. And so coming into this week, the highest open interest expiring this week was 6,300, and on the downside 6,200. So options expiration, they tend to keep prices in between that. So came into the week with, odds are it's going to play ping pong around there, and that's what it's been doing. Once this options expiration is over, and here's something I shared with I did a chart of the week and with our subscribers. All of these lines are options expirations. Not everyone lines up with a major turning point. The black ones are quarterlies, the red ones are monthlies. So, based on trend, support, resistance, market internals, and so on, I thought, well, the markets are likely to be in the trading range between that 6,300, 6,200, and these are the spiders. And then if the market is going to make some kind of a turn lower, it'll happen after the options expiration. So that's a bias. Now we're going to see what's going to happen next week. But, just based on knowing when an options expiration is, you can see that it's valuable information. So from there, what is the trend? Okay. The trend is up. It's up, it's new all-time highs. It's up on every time frame. It's above the 20, it's above the 50, it's above here. It accelerated here, which created that void concept. But it's a correction through time. It's building a base. Maybe it'll accelerate after the options expiration, where the market makers are kind of pinning it around here for those options to go out, worthless. But maybe it'll roll over. I don't know. From that point, what kind of bar would lead me to believe that it's going to go up? Well, if it's consolidating a wide range breakout bar, but down. Well, what if it gaps up and there's a big nasty red bar that closes on the low? The trend is still up, but that's a bearish bar. So here was, Liberation Day, the drop and then the turn and so on. So we have to keep applying our tools, and I'll call them tools, as and so I think this week probably going to be more or less directionless until proven otherwise. Even this morning pre-market, while things were up, I reminded everybody we do a pre-market review on YouTube. Goes out to everybody, the different places, YouTube, Facebook. We do a pre-market review, and I said, look, I mentioned the strikes, the open interest.
Okay.
So yesterday, trading range, I said I would not be surprised if this gets faded, even though it looks great this morning. And so
the summer is always weird, but this has been a pretty unique summer on the, with this whole stuff like that.
Let's call it the Trump effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. Depending on your political bias, I don't want to offend anybody, but look, I have my biases. If you don't like them, it is what it is. Anyway, you can call
I
me.
tell everyone to buy. Listen, I tell everybody, if you're biased in trading, it'll blow up your account.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be biased because, if that's the case, then short certain stocks and see how it works out.
Absolutely.
That's how you get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
But
you know what? I think a lot of people thought, relief, Trump, everything's going to be great. Well, things are changing. You don't change the direction of the Titanic in a day. And so, here comes, everybody talking tariffs and so on and so forth, and the uncertainty from day to day. And it's like, this is freaking schizophrenic action. It's like, if the ladies out there don't get offended, but worse than a woman, because, you got to love them and understand them. But, the day to day, this and that, 50% tariff, 100% tariff. No, let's hold off like another month. This is the date.
Or even like NATO, overnight, like NATO, making them buy all the, forget about NATO, even when he went to Middle East, it made him buy all the military equipment. I mean, Palantir took off, even when Biden was in office, with all the Green New Deal, they signed a contract. A lot of these things took off because of it. If you're against it, then short and see what happened. We got crushed. But, there's a lot of chatter with things that happen. And, one thing I tell everyone that I think everyone's starting to realize what he says, actually he means. So if something he does, it's going to affect certain stocks,
Right.
So you definitely got to keep an eye on it. But Greg, I mean, listen, that's great content. And I really look forward to everybody to kind of follow Greg. We're going to post up his link and everything else. Greg, is there anything that you would before we go, would recommend anybody, any advice, last minute advice, if somebody is really trying to get started or what they're doing? I mean, what would you tell them?
Realize you're dangerous to your financial well-being. If you're starting out, everyone's focus is to make money. You're excited to start getting involved. People get really excited. I'm going to open up my trading account. I'm going to get in there and place trades, and I'm going to do this and that. And it's like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Slow down. Go attend a few webinars, listen to a few podcasts. You've got a bunch of, these podcasts, listen to a few people, see if something rings true, as to, that kind of makes sense to me. Delve into it. Give yourself the time to learn something, kick it around, Don't be so anxious to press that button because you got a brokerage account, man. You probably don't take it the wrong way, but look, I've meant to press the buy button. I press the sell button. You got to learn how to set up your platform. Do you like white background? Do you like black background? Do you like a green background? Where are you going to put your daily chart and your weekly chart, your 5-minute chart? All of that takes time. Do you
It's like
get
you're wearing glasses, like even fonts. Like some people don't realize it.
right?
Like, the defaults on the fonts are totally different. One of the biggest things that the first thing we teach, Greg, is like when we tell everyone the most important thing, we need to set up your platform. But I said, like, I kind of got it set up. Like, no. We got to do we got to do a Zoom meeting. You got to make sure you get the layout set up because everybody's different and you don't even know. Like sometimes I tell them most of the things that you want, they don't even tell you about,
Sure.
And like you said, yeah, that's listen, some people don't even know what a bid and offer is.
And they're ready to press the button.
And they're ready to hit the button. They don't know what the bid and offer is. They don't understand what a spread is.
Right.
I had someone the other day, like I have a home living channel too, as for fun. And I like to, I have gardening, I cook, I raise chickens, backyard chickens. Someone says, don't you need a rooster to have chickens, to lay eggs? I'm like, unless you want to have babies. I'm like, well, listen, does a woman have a baby by herself? You know what I mean? It's the same thing. They're like, wow, I never thought of that. But very educated people, they know what you're talking, very highly, and they're like, but they just don't know unless someone educates them. And that's why I love to have you on here, Greg. And for someone that has over 35 years experience, like yourself, that's why, we need people like you to be out there and make them understand because, trading, I think is like almost like an 80-90% failure rate. It's like, why even get involved? And like you just said, like, you got to listen to people, you got to listen, get referrals, get someone that you like, take baby steps and so on,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And by the way, there's that link, everybody. If everybody wants to see and know more about it, we post the link up for Greg's website. Feel free, register for him, take his events, listen to him. I mean, listen, you can only learn so much within an hour, but or you can take your phone, scan that QR code because we're going to have Greg come back for one of our cyber expos and, he'll do a whole lesson on his training and so on. But hopefully now you know a little bit more about him. We will make some shorts out of this, some highlights, some nice 60-second, 90-second shorts. And also we will go out there and give you the whole version of it. But Greg, listen, it's been a pleasure. We definitely got to meet up. I'm always down in the Florida area. And we definitely got to kick things around. I love talking to people like you. It's been so many great war stories,
For sure. By the way, I got a free event tomorrow at 12 o'clock. You can check it out on YouTube and we stream it and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thanks again for inviting me, Fausto.
Greg, thanks for having us. And everyone, thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Cyber Traders. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you then.
All right.